Hi, and welcome to the January-February Licks and Tips of 2012. And I know I'm a little late getting this out, but I have some interesting things to tell you about and talk about, so let's get right into it. This video, I guess, is sort of a combination of a talk about collaborating with others and also introducing my new duet CD, which is a collaboration with my good friend Jim Wallace. Before I get into all of that, though, let's just talk about collaboration for just a minute. When you start working with others, there are a lot of advantages to it. One is that you learn from each other. You help each other figure things out. Like I'll be struggling with some section of a tune or something, and JW will look at me and go, "Well, why don't you try that?" Or whatever. Or he'll play a little something that will remind me of something, and we bat ideas back and forth, and we help figure out difficult passages of tunes or figure out a better key to play it in or whatever. Also, you get correction when you make a mistake or you've got the melody wrong or something like that. The other guy says, "Yeah, I don't think that's quite right," and you can go research it and see and find out. Oh yeah. So if you're prone to making any mistakes or errors or anything like that, the other person might catch it. Another thing is, of course, you're kind of teaching each other, and I've been teaching guitar for almost as long as I've been playing it, and you learn right away that there's no better way to learn something than to actually have to teach it. So you get that advantage along with the thing. The other thing, of course, you know that I'm primarily a fingerstyle solo guitar player. In my early years, it wasn't like that. I played in bands and did a lot of stuff with other people, and it was a lot of fun to jam and work out arrangements and so forth. But in the last 15 years, it's primarily been me. I just travel around and do everything by myself, and of course, I'm kind of known for trying to play all the parts by myself, fingerstyle, which is fun. But the truth is, you can't quite put as much feeling and emphasis and rhythmic phrasing and stuff into your playing when you're having to hold down all the parts. If somebody else will hold down the bass and chords a little bit, you can be freer to play the melody, and it gives you a lot more techniques and things that you can bring to the picture. There's also just fresh ideas. When you're working with other people, they come up with a different viewpoint. They're looking at everything at about a 30-degree angle from you, and they have different experiences and different tastes and so forth. And it keeps you from being kind of inbred, as a musician. When you just start playing by yourself all the time, everything that you do just starts sounding the same. And no matter how good it is, the same gets old. And so playing with others gives you that. And in general, two heads are just better than one. You learn to compromise as you're playing. It adds, of course, a lot of fun and excitement to the thing. Jim and I spend more time laughing and screaming than we do playing, actually. But that's actually why it's taken us so long to finally put out a record, I guess. But the music, when you play together, takes on a life of its own. Like, I can have an idea about what I think an arrangement ought to be, but as soon as you add another person, they might have an idea too. But the truth is, neither one of you have any idea what's going to happen until it happens. And that unpredictability and spontaneity is really great. And the sum, if it works right, the sum is greater than the parts. That's the point of it all. Well, anyway, let me tell you just a little bit about this new CD that we put out. It's called Guitar Chemistry, and that's a good title for it because Jim and I have known each other for over 30 years, and we've played, off and on all the way through that. We do a lot of other things besides playing guitars and everything too, but guitar has been kind of the center of it all along, of course. So anyway, what happened was several years ago, I recorded an album where I took actually a Mando cello, and later on I did this on a guitar. I came up with an unusual tuning that not very many people use that I really liked, and I have at this moment got this little Ibanez ragtime strung up that way. What happened was, in the early 60s and stuff like that, you would begin to hear a lot of high string guitars. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's kind of started, as near as I know, in Nashville. And at that time, stereo was a new thing. And so instead of having a 12-string guitar to have a full sound, on a recording, they would use a six-string guitar tuned up like the regular six-string guitar, and another six-string guitar tuned up with just the high strings of the 12-string set. And that way, two guys playing those two instruments sounded like one 12-string, except that, of course, both players are just slightly out of time and out of tune with each other and everything, which kind of produces a broader, chorusy effect. And they could pan the two left and right and get a stereo effect out of it. It's a very pretty sound. And I've always dinked with high string for a long time, as long as I've known Jim, I suppose, 30 years. But I got the notion one time that it would be interesting to take the high string idea and tune it down further so that it's not so high. And so I picked the baritone range. A baritone guitar, is tuned from like B to B. So this is the high string version of that. I've got B here and F sharp, and so forth. And then these strings are an octave higher. Now, what's interesting about this tuning in general, or the high string, is that, like, if you play what looks like a C note, it's actually a G note now in this tuning, but let's just talk about it visually. If you're playing that C note's the same note. It's not like an octave apart anymore, and this G is, see, now that G is like way different. It's not, it's up an octave, but it's high. So anyway, what it amounts to is the whole range of your guitar, instead of, if it was going from E to E on a standard high string, instead of being two octaves between those notes, there's only one. And so what that means is that you could play a note, like if you wanted to play a scale of it, you could also play it here. But here's the fun. You play this note here, that one there, this one here, that one there, and you can get that kind of a sound, which you can't get on a regular guitar. So if you've heard my CD with Bob Bennett, for example, Six String Prayers, we do a tune that goes, and you can see it creates a real different effect. The other thing is chord voicings. You get real tight, close chord voicings instead of broad, open voicings. So you have things like that. Sounds kind of like the modern air is singing rather than a guitar. So anyway, I was playing around with this tuning one day, and Jim happened to come over. This is a few years ago. And he got all fascinated with it. So he took a guitar at home and set it up this way and started playing around with it. So the next time we got together, we started kind of jamming on that. But, it puts us in two different keys because of the different tunings. So he was playing on one key, and I got, hey, why don't I just tune a guitar down to the baritone range so that, that way we're not in the same range at all. He's like up high and I'm down low. We've got a broader range between the two of us, and it puts us in the same key. So I had a Gretsch Rancher that was fairly new at that time. And this thing, it's a great big old box, so it's got a nice fat tone. So I start with the same notes, but, so it goes way down there. So you get a real big, thick, broad sound out of it. So Jim would play the high string thing, and I would play the baritone, and we started fooling around. Well, that's what started it all. We ended up working on a tune called Stardust, and we came up with the biggest, fattest set of chords you ever heard on two guitars. We played it for an old guy down south, and he said, "You sure that's just two guitars?" He says, "It sounds like a whole orchestra." Well, he was right. It was a big sound. So that's what spurred Jim and I to finally start recording some stuff. We laid down that tune, and then later we took a little St. Thomas. It's normally a Caribbean sounding, and we slowed it down and turned it into a whole different thing. And actually, when we went to record it, for some reason, we just flew into kind of a driving swing at one point and came back. But at any rate, again, it took on a life of its own once we got started. Uh, but it sounded great. And then we switched guitars, and I used the high string and him the baritone, and we did New York, New York. And then we switched back and did kind of a Chet Atkins, Jerry Reed concept on Limehouse Blues. And anyway, so over a few months, every time we'd get together, we'd work out something and started recording it. And then really life took over and a bunch of time passed, and we didn't do any recording for a long time. We just got together and did other things and fiddled around. But then some new input came. Dave Bertoncini ended up building this guitar for me. It's the John Standefer signature model regular acoustic guitar, and it brought about anytime you get a new guitar in general, it spurs you to write new things and arrange new things and everything. And I was excited. And not very long after that, by the way, Dave actually ended up building a guitar for Jim, and it's more of a 335 style hollow body electric guitar. And so anyway, we started playing again and started recording more tunes. And it wasn't very long after that, last about, I don't know, February or something of 2011, I ended up with this little goodie. It's a 1923 Gibson L3. It's very historic, and it's really cool. It is goofy to play because for you guitar players, it's got an 1 7/8" nut, and the neck is like 1.5 inches thick right there. It's like huge to play. And the action's not the greatest. It's okay, but nevertheless, the sound of it is real quaint and interesting. It's not as good up. Let me get up a little closer to the mic, like. And you can see it's got a cool sound. It's different than anything else. And I got all wound up over that, so Jim and I started playing with those guitar combinations and everything. And the long and short of it is, we ended up with this whole album's worth of tunes, and we mixed and mastered it and worked on covers and stuff, and we've just released it. And it's just a lot of fun. Every tune on it is different. There's like a European waltz version of just one of those things, and then the ones I mentioned already, and a funky version of Ode to Billy Joe. And speaking of funk, there's a tune that Jim wrote called Jimmy Jam that really is funky. We did What a Wonderful World, and Merle Haggard's tune, That's the Way Love Goes, and so forth. Anyway, just the two of us, another pop tune. And anyway, every tune is kind of its own little deal, and all different kinds of guitars and sounds and everything. And it truly is a chemical reaction. It's not the way either one of us plays when we're playing by ourselves. It's what happens when you throw two people together. So anyway, I hope that over a period of time, you'll have opportunities to play with other people, and the more the merrier, and learn and grow and collaborate on arrangements and record things yourself. And in the meanwhile, if you'd like to hear what we came up with, you can get the Guitar Chemistry CD at my website, johnstandefer.com, on the store page. And there's actually even a special introductory deal for through February of 2012, where you can get multiple copies at a discounted price if you want to get some for your friends and so forth. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that dissertation, and we'll enjoy the new CD, and we'll see you next time for Licks and Tips. So long.